Let's head to North London and Tottenham Hotspur against Brentford. Do you know there's certain things that happen in football, Janusz, that you can't explain, that are very quirky. This is possibly one of the quirkiest things I've ever heard. Last week, Brentford went to Manchester City and opened the scoring after 22 seconds. This week, they go to Spurs and they open the scoring after 22 seconds. Cue and insert spooky music. But just like last week, they go ahead early and they can't get the job done. What did you make of this one? Spurs winning by 3-1.
Well, I mean, the one thing you have to say about Spurs, was the response and the intensity after that early goal, right? Because, I mean, it's such an important game. The season hasn't started well for Spurs or for Ange Postecoglou. I was thinking ahead of the game, and the moment that goal was scored, and what was it, 23rd second, I think, very, very quickly, I was thinking, like, how much of the goodwill is Ange is going to get, right? Because remember last season when it all started, I mean, Spurs were absolutely on fire. Until that game, Mark, I think we actually did what we're doing right now after the game. Remember at home, 4-0, suspensions, red cards in that game against Chelsea. It was absolutely crazy. And ever since then, there was a couple of injuries, couple of red cards, and then the whole season fell apart. And I suppose you could have used that as an excuse. The rest of the season wasn't good. And this year, again, you could kind of get a sense of that. So when that goal went in, I'm going, my goodness. I mean, I look at Ange, and we've seen him already hunched over. Remember in that one game where just things didn't go well. Now he's got all the players back, no excuses. Vicario, and we'll get to him because he was a villain and he was a villain and a hero in today's game in many ways. The back four that was in that spell last season or the whole season, really, I mean, almost the best in the league. For the longest time, they conceded almost nothing. And so everybody's back right now, but some key players weren't performing. So today, I think was very, very important. That third goal was so important because Brentford were always in the game. Even though Spurs look good today in many facets of the game, you always felt that they needed that third goal. Otherwise, I think they would have drawn this game today.
Before we get to the third goal, let's talk about the Spurs equaliser. And it looks like James Madison's getting back to the form pre-injury of last season. He just looks happy. He looks refreshed. He looks 100% now. His shot blocked. And Solanke to knock home the equalising goal with the rebound. What did you think of this goal?
Yeah, I'd say that was a gift, wasn't it, from Pinnock? Yeah. That pass that James Madison intercepted. Solanke obviously cost a lot of money. I think he's looked good in the time that he's been there. You're right. I mean, that was the first game where I could actually say that James Madison is back because he hasn't been good this season. So I think that's great. The way the goal was scored, that chip. But even without the goal, I think he was one of the key and the best players for Spurs in that one. So I think that's all positive. Brennan Johnson, I think, is always good. Kulusevski is an engine. He always gives you something special. I don't know where this team would have been within Heung-min Son, even though he had multiple chances today. And I think I expect him to finish some of them a couple of times 1v1. But I think if Son, in the last two seasons wasn't there, I think you're talking Ange or not, love him or hate him. I think most people like him. I think Spurs would have been, I don't know, in the bottom 10. Son is Spurs. That's that.
Well, he got the assist, didn't he, in the 28th minute for Brennan Johnson, and he did really well at Nottingham Forest when he was there. He moved to Spurs, and initially it looked like most of his impact was off the bench, and you kind of thought, look, this is a player. We knew that from Forest. Is it maybe taken a little bit longer for him to have the influence he's now having for Spurs, Brennan Johnson?
Yeah, I think, I guess, I don't know what your expectations would have been. I mean, that's what I think of him. This is the kind of the player that's going to contribute, but I don't think he's going to be a star player. I just never felt that that's his role on that right-hand side. I think he always, for me, does a pretty decent job So no, my expectations are right where they are right now. I think of him as a very, very good player, but I think of him as a complementary player, right? I mean, Son being the start of this team, Solanke by virtue of what he did last season. I remember, I still think of Spurs, and Harry Kane would have been. I think would have been a perfect player, Brendan Johnson, if Kane was still there. So I think he does a very, very good job, and because I just don't think he's a star player.
Okay, you do like to tease, and I like it when you do that. Not tease, but Vicario. We're going to speak about him and his involvement in this game. So I think it's important here to kind of put the boring hat on, to bring out the laws of the game. And with regards to the handball and maybe why VAR didn't get involved in the second half when Spurs were leading by 2-1, here is the wording in the laws of the game. A direct free kick is awarded and a yellow card is shown if a promising attack is stopped, or a red card is shown if a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity was denied. Now, as we know, VAR cannot get involved for any yellow card offences. So that's what it's been deemed as, a promising attack, but not a clear denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. The bottom line is the referee's got to see this and give the free kick and the yellow card. This was the frustrating thing. The ref didn't notice that, but that's the reason VAR didn't get involved.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because even I thought at first, and for the longest time, not until you and I talked and really looked this over and looked the laws of the game. There's so many laws and interpretations that I have to be honest with you. As an analyst, it's impossible to know them all. I remember commentating games where I could, the laws were pretty simple. There weren't all that many. Where I was commentating a game, I know what needs to happen. Now there's situations that I don't, and that's I hope I'm not the only one here that doesn't know right away what needs to happen. But you're quite right, because it was a promising attack. It wasn't a goal scoring opportunity. It was certainly a handball, and VAR and the laws of the game state as that. And I have to agree with you on that. This wasn't, as I said, a great game for Vicario. Remember, he got his pocket picked in the 41st minute and then made a great save, because Bueno thought that he was going to take advantage of that. He also made a great save later on Kevin Schad. A superb save. But on a couple occasions, he looked very, very shaky. On this one, very, very lucky game, because certainly he knew what he was doing. He touched that ball 3 times, I think twice, or at least that last time for sure, way outside of the penalty area. There were 2 Spurs players in behind, and it wasn't an obvious goal scoring opportunity. So as the laws of the game state, as you rightfully pointed out, it's the right decision.
Yeah, it just should have been seen by the referee in real time in the first instance. Final goal of the game, 85th minute. It was the goal that kind of, relief. We're not just 1 goal ahead for the Spurs fans. And it was Madison who got his goal after his assist earlier, and it was Son with the assist again. What do you make of this one?
No, it was tremendous. It was on the break. I think what I make of that, maybe being a defender, was the unbelievable tackle that Bissouma put in to win that ball, to start a counter. Really, that's what happened, because the game was on the line. The game was going to be on the line until the very last minute, because Brentford were asking questions. I mentioned the crossbar from Cook and the follow-up that Vicario saved tremendously. I think Brentford at 2-1 was going to be pushing for the equalizer until the end. And they absolutely needed that. So sometimes it's not the finished product; it's what starts it. And you got to give Bissouma, who came in, just I don't know, a few minutes before that, on the pitch with a tremendous tackle. Then, of course, open space and Heung-min Son. I don't know if there are too many better players in this league or around the Europe. So a great pass, by the way, to find James Madison, and that quality that we've been waiting now from James Madison for a long, long time showed here. Such a cool and culture finish from him, and the game was done and dusted. Which, by the way, as everyone knows, Spurs absolutely needed. Anything but 3 points here would have started that conversation that I think I was trying to start. What about Spurs? What about Postecoglou? How good is he really? And is he just this lovable teddy bear, or is he going to get the job done for Spurs?
Well, you keep your rascal ways for another day. It's not the day today with Spurs.
No, and I'm glad. And I'm glad.
Exactly.
I have a very, as you know, I have a very soft spot for Ange Postecoglou and our viewership in Australia as well. We go a long way, and I'm sure you followed him at Celtic as well, very, very closely.